All right, good morning, everyone, and happy whatever the day is. Who cares anymore? It's a weekday. We're all at work, I guess. And this is it, right? Okay, let's do a little bit of this and let's have a catch up. Hello, Yusuf. How you doing, right? Hello, Enrico. Game door. Let's do that, then, shall we? Hello, Skylar. Hello, CP. How you doing, buddy? Hello, Caleb. How you going? It's not Kingdom Hearts. What is this? I'm gonna guess that because I have nothing else. I have nothing else to guess. I don't know what this is. I don't know this game at all. What is this? Something related to music. Some kind of music-inspired JRPG thing? I know the game, but not the name. Well, I don't know the name, and I don't know the game. It's blanket. So it's a lot. Actually, I think technically it's an old bed sheet, not bed sheet. Throw, an old throw, right? So yeah, it does. It does. It's very soft and it has a lot of texture, which can be seen in the background. Once I move, I'm going to build an actual wall instead, and I'm gonna put things in the ceiling. Whoops, forgot to move the light. I'm gonna put the lights mounted in the ceilings on just tracks, right? Just pipes, basically, with clamps. Because right now these things, the C-stands take up and like a C-stand light. These takes up an incredible amount of space. These things are massive, heavy, and yeah, they take up a lot of space, right? So if I could just flip the attachment to be in the ceiling on 2 tracks with a crossbar, so I can move it in along 2 axes, it's gonna be good. I don't know what this is. I have no idea what this is. It's not. I'm gonna guess that this game is like a 3DS or DS game, 2002 is my guess from the graphics around there. That's the only thing I can say. And it obviously, okay, so you probably, yeah, we can see what the name is, Rhythm something or other, right? And Final Fantasy, okay. 2012, I was off by 10 years as well. Well, if I would have seen this dude, that would have been a lot easier, right? Or if I had paid attention, right? That thing looked familiar, but I wasn't sure. But I've only played Final Fantasy 1 and 7. So I'm not like, and I barely played the first one, so I'm not really clued up on that whole saga, right? Yeah, today's another day, isn't it? Am I live on YouTube? I seem to be. It says live there. Excellent. Yeah, woke up. It's still difficult, but we're getting there. It's better than yesterday. Hot damn. But yes. Okay, so we're not gonna sink into a swamp of sadness and make this a boring stream. No one is here for that bullshit. We are gonna do some programming. I hope you enjoyed the stream yesterday because that will never happen again, okay? I jest. But I was programming some C++ yesterday at the end of the stream. I did a little bit of a longer stream than I normally do, and I decided to do C++ in the end. I don't know why I did that. Someone just said write a vector in C++ or whatever, and I don't know, in C++, okay, let's do it, right? C++ is okay. See, I feel bad banning you because you're a sub, but when you say things like this, I don't know, man. What did I dislike about C++? No, okay, listen, jokes aside. I have spent years with Rust, since about 2016, 2017, right? That's like 7, 8 years of spent with Rust, okay? I spent an hour with C++ yesterday. So to say that I don't like something about C++ or whatever, nah, that holds no value, okay? Don't listen to people who have opinions about things they've done for 1 hour, okay? Just no, okay? Say no more. C++ anathema rewrite. So let me tell you what this is not an opinion. This is an observation of my 1 hour or whatever with C++. Right? Let's be very clear on this. I have to put emphasis on this. 1 hour, okay? Not, oh, you spent 5 years with C++. What's your possibly valuable opinion? It's like, you did C++ for 1 hour. Okay, let's hear you completely fail at having a take on it, right? So what I would say with C++ that shocked me, and I kind of knew this, but I knew this from conversations, not from personal experience, was my program looked fine and it exhibited undefined behavior. And the only reason I know this is because people in chat told me that it did. I never go around to SIG, no. I feel like I just baited Christoph to come and watch, and then we never did SIG. I like SIG as well. I think it's fine, right? I assume you've written all the C+ in the past before you picked up Rust. No, God, no, Joseph. I had written C++ for 5 minutes before yesterday, and that was when another streamer, one of my first community members, by the moniker I Am Hardliner, he was doing a stream, and I miss him streaming Mario, right? I love watching his Mario streams. And I missed that, but so Hardliner was streaming, and he was doing some C++ or whatever, and he mentioned, like, in the passing, like, oh, in C++ you can have multiple inheritance. I'm like, what? No, that can't be true, I said to myself, and then I went off to figure out, how do you declare a class? How do you inherit from a class? Can you inherit from 2 classes? And the answer is yes, you can, right? Started with C#, right? No, when I started programming, C# did not exist. All right, I'm not that young. I started programming with BASIC and Pascal, okay? So when I have on average 200 viewers, I will reveal my exact age, okay? So yeah, the thing with C++ is I wrote code that compiled and exhibited the correct output, but it had undefined behavior in it. And even though the way I ran the code was like this, with pedantic and warnings as errors and all warnings or whatever. And it didn't tell me anything. And no, this is not, I'm not saying it didn't tell me anything, you should have told me something, right? I'm just saying it didn't tell me anything, right? You don't have to challenge my comment. I'm making an observation on my experience, right? I had no expectations. No, it was kind of interesting that you could do that. And there was like a lot of things that compiled that I felt maybe shouldn't have compiled, but that could also have been result of not using the code. For instance, in Rust, right? If we write some Rust code here, can we? Why can't I input? There we go. If I do this, right? We're gonna make this mutable. And then we do x1 is now equal to a mutable reference to X, right? And I can do this, okay? Now, you guys know this, and I know this, and any C++ developer watching who knows anything, watching my code yesterday, would also known whatever, right? But if I now were to run rustc, main.rs, this thing will compile, right? Even though, according to this code, I am taking multiple mutable references to X, right? But that's not really how it works. It's gonna get, okay, you get a mutable reference to X, but you don't use it, so whatever. You get a mutable reference to X, you don't use it, so whatever, right? I think it could have been a case of this, right? You can do multiple inheritance as a common pattern if you read on the C+ design. It makes a case for it. That's another thing that I found a little bit. So let me tell you my entirely useless and meaningless observations around this, okay? Because they hold no substance and no value, right? Multiple like common patterns and design. The thing that I understood yesterday was that there aren't really any hard and fast rules in C++. It's very much here's a compiler, here's some syntax, the rest is your problem. Whereas in Rust, there's a lot more rules enforced by the compiler. There's a lot more community guidelines. You will get actual warnings in your code if you format your code poorly or do something else. Like, well, let me just do this for a change, right? Let me just do something like this, right? Is gonna give it to you, right? So if I run this now, well, I'm going to get a warning, right? Well, that's one warning, but there you go, right? Here's another warning, right? So it literally gives me the suggested alternatives. This does not exist in C++, right? We're going to get into that shortly. 73 years old. So I can't really say anything to this, right? I've used multiple inheritance in other languages, and it has been useful, but I also know the issues that comes with it. Happy Friday, Excel. My cat is pretty solid. Kitty cat? Yeah, you solid. All right. So this does not exist in C++, right? There was like do whatever, but this isn't even like the biggest thing, right? This isn't like the biggest thing. The biggest issue was, well, it's not an issue. I mean, I'm trying to phrase this in such a way that, like, I can't stress this enough. I'm not a C++ developer. My comments have no validity, right? So I got away with way too much stuff. There was very little help from the compiler, and I would have liked that. So my completely meaningless observation is this. I think C++ is very hard, and if you're gonna learn C++, you should not go about it the way I did it. But saying that C++, you can say that Rust is hard as well. If you try to do Rust the way I did C++, you're gonna have a terrible time, but you're never gonna see your code run with undefined behavior. You're just not gonna see your code run at all, right? But so these are like well, hang on, the static inheritance used in plan. Okay, no, that's not C++. So when you have to, when things aren't opt out instead of opt in and all these things, right? Then you don't know about them. But really, I can't really say anything about C++. I went about it in the most terrible way possible, right? The way you should not learn anything, right? And that is not reading any documentation, not having a starting point. I literally just started writing code. So if we look at the code I wrote yesterday, right? I just started writing code. I have no idea what any of this stuff does, right? I started with printing hello world in main, right? So that was like the first thing. that I did was this, right? And then print hello world in there. And that's it, right? That's how I learned Rust. Well, with Rust, you at least get compiler errors. So maybe that approach is feasible in Rust. But I'd still say if I really were going to learn C++, I would have started with a book. I speak C++. I learned it from a book. Right? I would learn that from a book. Not by just going, this is how I would do something. And I think this is like the fundamental flaw in a lot of senior programmers. Right? I know programming, this is how you do it, and then they force their ways into a language that doesn't want to work that way. They kind of bend the language, right? I did see some beautiful error messages though, right? And hello world took 20 minutes due to the degens in chat. The chat was, if I would not have been able to do this if I would not have been able to do this if chat hadn't been there. So basically what I did to get here was chat, CPP reference, W3C school actually had something. What did I get from W3C school? And some Stack Overflow posts that got us to this, where this will run. You can push and get things out of a vector. We could easily implement pop as well, but this it was kind of fun. But by no means can I go anywhere from here, right? Like, so I can do this, but I don't understand half the stuff. I mean, you know, what the is this, right? Now I know what this is. We're dereferencing the variable and then we're calling the destructor on this thing, right? So but I wrote this like I would have done this in Rust, right? This would have been my drop. This would have been my alloc, my instance of my alloc. Apparently, you don't have to care about alignment and layout in C++, which I thought was very interesting. This doesn't look like idiomatic C++. No, I was basing this after Rust, right? I was writing this the way I would have written it in Rust, which is the fundamental problem when you're gonna learn another language and you don't adopt everything about the language. You just take what you know from other languages and you try to shoehorn that into a language. Then you're still trying to program Rust, all right? I did hear some choice wording around this thing. Your message is stuck in review. I don't see those, Excel. You probably wrote some naughty words in there, so you have to change your language. Okay. There you go. This is where we got stuck. See, if you would have used proper language, that wouldn't have been a problem, though, right? Wasn't it like Bjarne or whoever said that? Anyway, we're not doing this today, right? We're just talking about it. So I did that at the end of yesterday's stream, and that was quite an interesting experience, right? So yeah, and to learn how to write idiomatic any language, you need to start with the foundation. You need to start with a language, with a book on the language, reading things like I don't think a tutorial is good, okay? I don't think a tutorial is particular. Let's take that to the test, right? Learning Rust tutorial helps if you can spell. All right, okay. And I don't want videos. Videos are for babies, okay? Babies watch videos. I'm kidding, of course. It's a joke. Chill. But we want a blog post or something, like we want a tutorial. Okay. Show me some random dude's Rust tutorial. Best Rust tutorial, Hacker.io. Okay. Introduction to the course, to the course and Rust. Okay, is this some... Yeah, bullshit. Become a Rust web developer. Rust. Yeah, these sound really like this is the actual book. How would you refer to this book as a tutorial, right? You don't know what a tutorial is, okay? This is all bullshit. Okay, Rust tutorial. That literally has the word tutorial in it. Job search. What the flip? Rust is a blah, blah, blah. Audience. This tutorial has been prepared for beginners to help them understand the basic and advanced concepts of Rust. We assume that the reader has an understanding of basic programming concepts. We assume that the reader has an understanding of basic programming concepts is necessary for this course. Whose take on English is this? We assume that the reader has an understanding that basic programming concepts is necessary for this course. What the shit? Okay, we're off to a good start. Blah. Application versus blah. Okay, wait. Should we look at this though? Right. I am watching a baby right now. Is it? Make up your mind. Am I 73 or a baby? Maybe they're not mutually exclusive. Being a Rust web developer sounds intimidating. No, I think that'd be great. If I had to go back into Rust development, this is what I would do, right? Should I learn C after Python? What do you want to do, Cosmo? Right? Like, what's your what kind of applications do you wanna build? I think you could definitely learn C after Python, right? You can, but where do you want to go with your programming journey, right? Would Rustlings qualify as a tutorial? No. Rustlings is like a whole different thing. A tutorial in general is a series of steps written by sort of like a one-man band kind of thing. Here's my tutorial on how to do this thing. It's an introduction or whatever, right? I think Rustlings is a bunch of exercises, and it's more like a course than anything, isn't it? Maybe you're Benjamin Button. Man, did you ever watch Walter Mitty? Backend, maybe? But what kind of backend? You have. I'm being facetious now, Cosmo, but you have multiple types that are backend. Like you have compiler backends, you have web server, you have web backends. What kind of backends do you want to do, right? But if you mean web backends, Cosmo, I don't think C is a particularly good language to do any web programming in, right? If you already know Python, then maybe look at something like Django, which is a really good framework for doing backend development in Python, if you already know it. Maybe something like Go would be a good choice for the backend. Hello, Prevan, how you doing, buddy? So I woke up this morning, Prevan, and I was still really sad, and I felt like I don't want to start recording videos because that's not gonna. I'm not gonna transfer a good atmosphere, right? But as soon as I wake up and I'm feeling like happy, that's the day I'm gonna poke you, and then we'll chat, right? Do you see that Jace is getting Rust stuff now, or Rust error handling? I don't know what that means. Yeah, thanks. Because I really want to do it, though, Privan. I really want to do it. I just have to be in a good place. Thank you. Python, C, assembly, then give up. Okay. How was C++? Hello, Peter. How you doing, buddy? How's your home? Are you enjoying? I was gonna say enjoying married life, but that's not what you did. Are you enjoying being a homeowner? C++ was funny, all right, but it was a complete train wreck. And it was not fair. I appreciate that, Prewan. Thank you. Okay, so we're looking at this thing, application program. So why am I looking at this thing? Because I'm saying that tutorials aren't good places to learn languages. And now I just grabbed a random Rust tutorial to see. Actually, this thing seemed to have a lot of stuff going on. So I don't know, right? You're enjoying it? Living a healthy lifestyle, very good. Yeah, that's good, man. I did basic PHP C when I started. And now Rust. Yeah, I hear you. Then you go and get a family, Peter, and then all of a sudden you're back to caring again. Okay, so application versus systems programming languages. Application programming languages like Java, C# we use to build software which provides services to the user directly. I'm not going to be nitpicky or care about this stuff, right? They help us build business applications like spreadsheets, word processor, web applications, or mobile applications. Like Rust is perfectly fine for most of these things as well. Systems programming like C, C++ are used to build software and software platforms that can be used to build operating systems. The thing is, I don't think most word processors out there are probably written in C and C++, though, aren't they? Anyway, these programs require a great degree of hardware interaction. What? Okay, all right. I said I wasn't going to be nitpicky. Systems application programmers face two major problems. It's difficult to write secure code. It's difficult to write multi-threaded code. Why Rust? Blah, blah. Performance. Rust programming does not have a GC. This improves performance at runtime. So, this can improve performance at runtime, okay? Memory safety at compile time. Software build using Rust. You guys want to see something funny? I'm going to show you this, but you're not going to get to see why this is. No, that's the wrong one. That's the one, right? Check this out. This is Rust code. This is written in Rust. This is written in Python. Look at the timings here, right? 18.3 milliseconds, 7 milliseconds, right? Clearly, Python is faster than Rust. Is it the same algorithm? Yeah, it's the Fibonacci sequence, right? A Fibonacci algorithm, right? We're calculating a Fibonacci 35 times, right? Is it real Python? Yes, it's real Python. Why this is, I mean, maybe you can extrapolate from the naming here, but why this is, you're going to have to watch my next video to find out. But no, I never showed code. I never showed the code for this, and I'm not going to show it again. I also wrote a faster version in Rust as well, right? But the point, that is the point, right? That is the point. Try Visual Basic? No. No, good God, no. Look, you shouldn't do things because you think you have to, right? Just because, you know, your parents had kids at the age of whatever doesn't mean you have to, right? Like, we don't have to follow the comment. You don't have to get married. You don't have to do any of these things, right? It's just some people do it for the wrong reasons as well, right? Got bamboozled instead. Well, this Rust code isn't too bad. We're gonna write some of this though, right? Your parents' life is not your life. That's correct. Yeah, I figured that. Your parents live, not you live. Or split keyboards. What's wrong with split keyboards, man? I'm loving this. But no, you're absolutely right. Learning Vim because you guys seen Prime use it, or TJ or me or whatever, right? That's not a right reason to learn Vim. I mean, it's a reason, but probably not a good one. My release is your thoughts. Yeah, there is that too, right? But anyway, yeah, we were talking about a tutorial, right? I completely lost track of what I was doing. I was about to go and write some code, right? So, yeah, okay, let's not be nitpicky, because if we are, I'm gonna be stuck for it. If it's badly written language, then I get nitpicky. But we're not gonna get into it, right? But except for this one thing, right? When you make statements like this improves the performance at runtime. There's a lot of stuff behind these statements, okay? This statement, because I just ran some Python code that outperformed my compiled in release mode Rust code doing the same algorithm, okay? So then of course if you don't have, and again, this is part of what the upcoming video is going to be about. If you do not have the ability to leverage the power of a language, then it doesn't matter how good the language is, right? I bet you that if you given a Formula One car is in a race against a Formula One driver who's given 2006 Toyota Corolla, they're still gonna kick your ass, okay? Because you do not have the skill to handle that car, and they can definitely eke out the most out of that Toyota, right? It's just how it is, right? I'm saying that because in a Formula One car, either we're gonna drive incredibly slow, being cautious, or we're gonna crash. Either way, it's gonna result in us not winning any races, right? Why do you want to try not QWERTY layout and split keyboard? I guess that's not a comment for me. Why one of the Digma do you have? I have the DeFi, the Digma DeFi, right? If you have the non-gaming one, do you game with these? So I do game with this. For the most important thing is that Minecraft, okay, the grass block, right? I did this with my kid when I got this. She was so excited when I got this keyboard. She's like, can you get more stuff? And if you don't like it, can I have it? I'm like, what are you gonna do with a split keyboard, girl? She just wants swag, man. But you can set up gaming layers and stuff. I show you the software for this because it's really easy to do, right? To configure this thing, right? This is it, right? You just change the buttons as you see fit. I'm not gonna do this. It takes no time to do it, but I'm not gonna bother changing any buttons. But select the button, select what you want there, click save changes. I'm not gonna do that because I don't want the number 5 up there, right? Really easy to configure. Here's like a layer swap. Oh yes, they renamed these. Oh, that's so good. This used to say Shift 3, but that sounds like the Shift key, so they actually renamed. That's a really good thing. All right, so this button would take me to the 3rd layer. This one would take me to the 2nd layer. What's on the 2nd layer? Well, here's my 2nd layer, right? It's as easy as that, right? And you can have up to 10 layers. I don't know, maybe you can have more. What do I know? Share layer, clear layer. What do I know, right? So yeah. Yeah, you don't have to add wireless and all that stuff, right? So when it comes to this thing, I probably would go with wired, because wireless isn't that important to me. The wireless of this is really cool. I'm using it in wireless mode now. And if I want to swap to Bluetooth, you see that little slot in there, the little USB-C cable there? All you do is take the wireless receiver, which is at the end of this blob, and you slot that in. So the wireless receiver plugs into that hole, and all of a sudden it goes from it goes into, it's weird to say wireless and then Bluetooth, which is also wireless, but then it goes into Bluetooth mode, right? Get out of here. So skip wireless if you wanna reduce the price. You can skip wireless. The only thing I don't know, you can skip the underglow as well. You're still gonna get RGB on the buttons, right? And that's really useful when you have layers that you turn on, right? So if I turn on a layer now I have a layer on, right? Now it's the Minecraft layer. If I didn't have any RGB underglow or RGB per button or whatever, right? I had no way of indicating which layer I'm on. That's gonna cause havoc if you sit down and start trying to program on it. You toggle a layer, you walk away, you come back, you have no idea what layer you're on, right? Layers are RGB lights are actually quite important on keyboards, right? So, but the underglow, this thing here, you don't need, right? So I would skip that. Maybe tenting. Maybe tenting is the way to go, right? So I don't know how, I use very light tenting, but I kind of feel like I want to keep using tenting, so it's difficult to say, right? But you definitely can cut that price down a lot, right? Yeah, if you, I want the RGB, but that's, the RGB is not the same as the RGB underglow, right? It's not, it's this thing we were talking about, right? Okay, if you do buy it and you feel like using my link, that's super cool, but don't feel like you have to, right? But I really like this keyboard, and I am not paid to say so. I was given this keyboard, and in the contract it says you have to say what your opinions are, not So I can't not share my opinions. And I like this. I made this my daily driver. I think it's really nice. Anyway. Okay, so we're not gonna get into this thing. Software built using Rust is safe from memory issues like dangling pointers, buffer overruns, and memory. Okay. What? This is not a promise of Rust. There's no promise of memory leaks. You can leak memory left, right, and center in Rust. There's no promise about memory leaks. Monitor Rust ownership, memory safety rules provide concurrency without data races. Support for WASM. Okay, we're enough for this bullshit. All right, env setup. Okay, what do we have to read through this then? Right, installation on Windows. Well, I think I would have liked it if they just linked to the Rust up website, or maybe yeah, whatever. Okay. Create Hello World app. Oh, good grief. Okay, why would you? Okay, where are you going with this? Are you gonna do I need JavaScript enabled for this thing, right? Because this thing looks like it's terrible. Don't you just love that? Why don't you try to dox me some more, you piece of shit website? First page has errors, good sign. Yeah, I can leak you. I'm the leaker. Possibly. What are my opinions on what? So, okay. So I want to know why aren't they going with cargo new here, right? Let's see what they do. Rust program files have an extension RS. This above command creates an empty file. Hello RS, and everything's capitalized as well. This really feels like a Windows developer in action, right? An opposite in Notepad, okay? Notepad. Add the code given below to this file. Why is that on a new line and there's no space there? All right. Okay, right. So they're skipping cargo here. They're skipping cargo. I don't know why. I don't think any new Rust developer should do any of the sort. You should not skip cargo. I don't even think the Rust book. I don't think the Rust book is even skipping cargo. Okay, was that not it? I'm pretty sure this thing is gonna go straight to using cargo for your first. Well, I guess this is talking about things, but no, that's talking about the version. Hello world. They do start with Rust C. That is weird, but okay. I don't know any Rust developer who's not using cargo, right? It's like here's what you can do. Now you're probably never gonna do that, right? So your first program, and then what is a macro? Okay. I mean, I get why, but this is a bit bizarre. Your first program, and then what is a macro? You are not gonna get into macros though, right? What's up with the syntax highlighting? That thing is rubbish. No, they are just really shit then. Okay, fair enough. Allows meta programming and doesn't explain what it is. Hello, Scott. Did I get? No, I have not done much this morning, Scott. I was gonna do some work on the video, but I was just too sad to do anything, right? Learn macro. There you go, right? Comment in Rust. So, yeah, this is fine. You definitely have to have some prior programming skill before you do it. I rarely see this comment either, right? This style of commenting in Rust is useful if you need to comment out something in the middle of your lines, but other than that, I don't see this, right? About the code generated with proc macros, nice. It sure is, Burlov. I've heard Rust syntax just compiled Python. Too right, man. Wait, what is this thing? Why aren't they using the regular playground? Okay, whatever, right? Next. Type system represents different types of values supported by the language. The type system checks validity. I just wonder what the point of this is. It's like a bad version of the book, maybe. Sorry, I'm being very critical now. And that's not very good. It's not very constructive. Ignore that comment. The type system, why is type system written like this? But okay, represents the different types of values supported by the language. The type system check. It's like the type system trademark. Checks validity of like type system is not a name, right? Type system is a thing. The type system, right? This ensures that the code behaves as expected. I can be wrong, don't worry about it. Allows for richer code, hinting, and automated documentation. 2. Rust is statically typed language. Every value in Rust is of a certain data type. The compiler can automatically infer data type or the variable based on the value assigned to it. String type, float type. Yeah, but which float type is it? 32-bit or 64-bit? Is this a string slice? Is it an own string? What is it? All right, I'm being silly. Unicode character type. Like, there's so many attention to details that's been lost here that this grosses me out. All right, like you clearly haven't reviewed this. You haven't read through it. Why do we get like code highlighting now, but we didn't get in the previous one, right? Did they even explain why it's a macro? If they don't explain it, they are terrible. The reason it's a macro is because Rust doesn't have variadic functions. So let's just look for the word variadic functions in here. Therefore, they provide more runtime features to a program, unlike functions. No, I mean, this is very hand wavy. Sorry, I'm getting very critical about this. Macros are extended version of functions. What the actual are you talking about? Macros are extended version of functions. Macros are an extended version of functions. This is just make believe. This makes no sense. And what macros are you talking about? Declarative or procedural, right? This is complete hokum. This is now starting to anger me a little bit. I'm trying to be polite, but I'm very yeah. Let's just not. So poor attention to detail and incorrect. Great. In the above example, data type of the variables will be inferred from the value assigned to them. For example, Rust will assign string data type to the variable company string, float data to the float. So you're also missing what they are, right? There's not just a singular float type. All right, and there certainly isn't a single string type in Rust, so, but let's not go there. A typo is a type of plugin system. Why not, right? Did they even explain that macros are expanded compile time? No, they explained nothing. They said that macros, what was it? Like macros are more powerful functions. Was that the... macros are an extended version of functions, and I can't even have a bigger WTF moment than that, right? You just lost me. All right, integer. Okay, at least we're getting here. Scalar types. Print line macro takes 2 argument. No, it doesn't. The print line macro does not take 2 arguments. That's the very reason it is a macro. It takes a variable number of arguments. It can take as many arguments as you want to give it. All right. The variable name or a constant. Okay. No, all right, sorry. They're talking about the printline macro used here. Okay, so I'm jumping the rage gun a little bit. The placeholder will be replaced by the variable name. So this might be old. When was this written? I don't love it when there's no date stamps on things. When was this written? I mean, okay, I'm not gonna keep reading this because this it's slightly angering me. But this might be old, right? Which is why they're not using icon car in here instead, right? And there's like this is so sloppy. No space, but you have space there, no space there, no space there. This is so sloppy. It annoys me. I would rate this this tutorial very low, and the point of looking at this tutorial, because I say tutorials aren't a good place to learn on a programming language, right? You should start with some foundational knowledge, right? You should start with a book, right? You can look at a tutorial to play around with the language or whatever, but get a book and get into the basics of the programming language, no matter how much programming skill you think you have, right? Because a tutorial is just gonna scratch the surface. But not only that, if you don't know any better, you might actually believe all the bullshit you're reading. So there's that too, right? It is not a good first programming language. I agree with you. Yeah, it's so you can place the variable names. You can place idents in here, right? Not complex dot expressions, but idents can be placed there. I think ChatGPT would do better, maybe, but again, in the same vein, right? If you don't know that the output is bullshit, you're gonna think it's true, right? A scalar type represents a single value, for example, 10, 3.14, the character C. Rust has 4 primary scalar types: integer, floating point, booleans, and characters. So why is it integer and characters? Why is that in plural? Why is this such bad language? Okay, anyway, we will learn about each type in a subsequent section. So we stopped writing type with uppercase T. Explore our latest online course. Yeah, really. You know what? I would love to give these people money to teach me something, right? Maybe I can come out of there thinking the earth is flat, or that vaccinating my kid makes her autistic, right? An integer is a number without a fractional component. Simply put, the integer data type is used to represent a whole number. Integers can be further classified as signed or unsigned. Signed integers can store both negative and positive values. Unsigned integers can only store positive values. A detailed description if integer type is given. Come on, man. This is so bad. Okay. Spell checkers. They cost nothing. They exist in pretty much every editor, right? All right. So this isn't going to be... What is this SR? Serial number? What is this? What does this have to do with anything? Oh my God. Okay. Look, really cannot just leave this, right? Okay. There we go. So... Okay, so I don't know what this means. This is yeah. It's made of piece of cake. I think Toro's point is more about quantity and not quality, and that is true for most of their content. Clearly, the size of an integer can be arch. This means that the size of the that's a weird way of putting it. This means the size of data will be derived from the architecture of the machine. An integer, the size of which is an integer the size of which is arch will be 32 bits on an x86 machine and 64-bit on an x64 machine. An arch integer is primarily used when indexing some sort of collection. I mean, why are we just making stuff up, right? Should we just add more to this thing, right? It's also used to count the number of dragons you have. All right, so we need to, well, you know, whatever, right? Why are you including this? I just, the more shit I'm reading, the more critical I'm getting towards this, right? No, I stopped very early on. We return a compilation error if you replace the value of age with a floating point value, integer range. Each signed variant can store numbers from -2 to the power of n minus 1. What a beautiful way of expressing that, but okay. Each unsigned variant can store numbers 0 to blah, blah, blah. Integer overflow occurs when the value assigned to an integer exceeds the Rust-defined range of the data type. Let's understand this with an example. Overflow value is 0. That is only if you compile this in release mode, by the way, but let's skip that detail. The valid range of unsigned U8 variable is 0 to 25. In the above example, the variables are assigned values greater than the upper limit. On execution, the above code will return a warning. I wonder if this is like really old or something. First of all, this is only in release mode. In the debug mode, this will fail to this will throw an error. Automatic typecasting. Automatic typecasting is not allowed in Rust. Consider the following code snippet. An integer value is assigned to a float variable interest. The compiler throws an error. Okay. Number 7. Whatever you do, if you're going to learn Rust, don't go to this website. This thing makes me, that just angered me. I didn't know I could get so angry by reading terrible content, but apparently we can. The website are blacklisted from my search result. I can see why. I think I managed to I get through like 2 pages and it was incorrect and poorly written and terrible formatting. And you have no pride in your work if that's how you do it. And these people, I assume I do. And you know what happens when you assume. I assume that these people are in it for the money, right? That's why they're doing this. Yeah. Oh man, Geeks for Geeks. I have used this as part of my research for my upcoming video. Oh man, yeah. You would get more angry if you read my code. I don't think so, because your code was written by you for your intents and purposes. It wasn't written to generate income for you under the guise of being educational and selling your bullshit coding. I mean, oh god. If I had the time, it would be fun to do a video where we paid for boot camps and evaluated how shit these things can be. But that takes way too much money and way too much time. And if you don't go and get a job with them, you have to pay for the course, and that's going to be really expensive. That is a hot take, and it's also not correct, Coconut, right? The reason it's not correct is because I'm a streamer, and I said so. No, I jest, of course. But so this is the thing. There is no one size fits all. We all learn differently. The biggest divide between people learning that I see is people who learn through making a project and people who don't need a project back learning process, right? People, for me, for instance, I can do something in isolation to learn and understand it. I don't need a project to learn about it, right? But I understand that people are not like me, right? They want a project, so they're gonna learn language. And I get this comment plenty over the years we've had. I want to learn Rust, but I don't know what to build. All right? I want to do, and that's very normal, right? Some people learn from videos. Some people learn from reading books. Some people like to. I think the most fundamental thing, though, is that unites us all in our educational journeys is that reading or watching alone will teach you nothing. It's not until you start working with the language and building things that you will start learning, right? You will cement the knowledge, right? You know what the saying, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? But if you learn Rust and you read and you don't write any Rust code, then you're not gonna have a lot of substance to your knowledge, right? But you all know this, right? A lot of documentation is really bad, yeah. Or what do you think about some of the learning websites like Udemy? So I haven't really done anything with Udemy. I haven't looked at that. So it's hard for me to say. So I like to learn from books, right? I like to grab a book, hard copy, sit down somewhere, start reading, then go and sit in front of a computer, bash out some code, go back to do some reading, write some code, and that's kind of my process, right? So watching videos is really useful for me when I'm learning a recipe to make food or whatever, but programming videos don't really teach me much, right? Or it's not my preferred way of learning. But that is just me, right? And everyone who's like me. Oh, hang on. ¿Qué quieres? Yes. All right, let me just fix this. Let's do controls. I gave my kid some bonus time on her phone. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we all have the thing is, you don't have to try to min-max your learning process, right? Because there is so much stuff when it comes to learning, right? Is this what we call the Socratic method when we, you know what, let me look this up before I say anything too dumb. Let me look this up. No. That's fuzzy critical thinking. What am I thinking about? In more formal education settings, the Socratic is harnessed by teachers to draw out knowledge from students. Actually, this is really good. This is what you should do when someone asks for help in programming. Okay, so when someone goes, "My program isn't working," you shouldn't say, "Okay, send me the code." You look at the code, you fix the code, you send it back, and then bam, it's working. Instead, you should say, okay, what's the error message? What can you extrapolate from this error message? Okay, what can we do this? What about this, right? It's really useful when you're helping. So, I mean, you might not have time to do that, but it's really useful when you help people. I really don't love it when I'm in a one-to-one with someone or someone's talking to me about something and they want to learn something and I just give them the answer. I don't love that. I don't think that's good. Books help. I remember I read Head First Java and a lot of stuff just made sense. I think those books are good. I read Head First Design Patterns. I think that's a really good book. Okay, but yes, let's do a little bit of programming. Yum. Iced tea without sugar. Yes, I am the devil. Okay, so what do we need here? We're just gonna... We're not going to update this, are we? Okay, so, right. What am I doing and why am I doing it? Okay, so let's have a look at some code. I thought I saw the problem, but I didn't because I gave something the wrong ID. If we go and look at some template code, I can show this instead. There we go. If... we're now inside a component, right? This template belongs to a component. So any component inside this component should have this component as a parent, right? So if this component has an ID of 0, then this component should have a parent of 0 kind of thing, right? And that's what I'm trying to solve now, right? But I'm overcomplicating this for myself. But I made a mistake. So I said, when we create a component, we take that ID and we make that the next parent. So when I create this component, we make the next parent this component's ID. That makes sense. But when I create this component, I also make this component the next parent ID. So this component, which is on the same level, it's a sibling, gets this component as the parent. And that's wrong, right? It was kind of fun to do C++ yesterday, though, right? But I did not. I did not do it in the C++ way, though, right? So instead, we need to know the context in which we are creating the component, right? The proper way. No, I did. I wrote non-idiomatic C++ code that vaguely looked like Rust code if you squint a little. But I enjoyed it, but that was more of the interaction with the community. I'm not gonna start writing C++ anytime soon, right? But we got something working. 1 hour or whatever it was with C++. Admitting to war crimes. So the question is, how do we say that any component created inside this component is going to make this component the parent, right? So we can go to the evaluation of a component, right? I think maybe, like, I didn't even look at this. Maybe we even have a hierarchy. The Rap, thank you so much for the sub, buddy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. But it makes sense, right? It's what we're familiar with. But it is ideal to learn the language when the foundation of that language, right? So if I was going to go from Python to JavaScript, for instance, I wouldn't be too concerned about it. But if I'm going to go from Rust to C or C++, then I would be very concerned about it, right? About getting the understanding of the roots of the whole thing, right? Okay. Maybe there is something. So if we store this on the context, let's start by going to the document here where we're going to generate our first context. And we are not going to have a current parent. Okay, so let's look at the blueprint that we're actually dealing with up here. If we look at the main function, we have a document in here. All right, so we're just going to put the index in there. So that was kind of irrelevant. Okay, so following this, if we are now that we're creating the index component at this level, that's what's going to be inside the what we parsed out here. And that's going to be our first blueprint. And then we're going to, as we build this up, where do we parse the context? Here we go. As we build this up, we currently don't have anything. So we're going to end up here on component. That's going to be the first thing we evaluate. So we're going to set the parent to be nothing. There isn't one. But in the body of this thing, where is the body of this? Here. Here, we need to set the parent, right? Here, the parent should be our component ID. Maybe we use component ID as the parent then. I wonder if we can do that, right? So component. Is that going to be okay? So this will be for any body inside that component. That seems right to me. That was almost too simple. So we don't actually make use of this parent anyway, do we? Yeah, we do. We get it from here. So we're not updating anything. We're just going to get the current component parent in that case. So where do we set the parent here? That's going to be the context. Then that doesn't exist. Whoops. We don't need that anymore. No, stop pressing P. There we go, right? Okay, so fair enough. There's an option of a U16. So we'll make this. I don't think we can make it a template component. Can we? Is this a temp? Can this be a template component ID? Yes, it can. It's this guy. All right, so it's already there. So let's change this to a template component ID. Do I have to fix this? No. And is that a copy type? It is. I mean, okay, this looks... we can change this to U16. We're not going to have more components than that. But let's not do that for now. That's going to be one of those things we can do later. Okay. So do we need that on the context? Yeah, because we're passing in the parent here when we're doing the compilation, I think. So load component, we're passing in our component ID here is the parent. No, that's always going to be there. Oh, but hang on. Which IPC protocol am I most comfortable with? Nothing. None. Someone understand lifetime? Good work, Codebra. Feel free to ask questions and share code if you want. I'm just lost in my own swamp right now anyway. So we're passing this as the parent. Do we need to store that on the context? Because what if we could just pass it in the eval function? But that's what we have the context. Like pipes, shared memory, wherever. I mean, you can have sockets over pipes, right? Whichever one you want. I mean, these are just abstraction. Like you're gonna operate on abstractions over these things anyway, most likely. So it's not like you're doing anything directly with the pipe, right? You in Rust you have something that implements IO read and IO write, and that's it, right? Whether it's a TCP connection or a Unix stream or whatever, it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, it obviously matters, but from the implementation that you're writing, it doesn't matter. So eval, I should probably not. Yeah, that sound traveled pretty. Yeah, sorry, it travels through the arm. So we store it on the context because we have to start somewhere. How can a function of this work? Test. Because that's a good question. All right, and this is part of what we call lifetime elision, right? So the first rule of lifetime elision, here we go, right? If there is exactly one input lifetime position, which you have here, that lifetime is assigned to all elided output lifetimes, and that's your output lifetime. So because you only have one, if you were to add another argument to this function that is also a reference, then you don't have a single input lifetime. You have two, and therefore we cannot infer the lifetime for this guy. So you would have to specify the lifetime. Yes, my son, what can I do you for? Okay, you confused. Then let's hop into it. Okay. Okay, let's say we have a function here called getIt, and we're gonna have some input that is a reference to a U32, right? And we're gonna return a reference to a U32, okay? And we're gonna return that reference. Now, if I call this function, remember that I said what I said yesterday, right? When you look at lifetimes, you look at the function signature, right? So here we can see that there can only be one lifetime for the output, right? Or technically two, right? The lifetime for our output can only be the same as A, which is this guy, or static. Okay, these are the only two lifetimes we can have in there, right? So it makes no sense to give it a lifetime name, right? It makes no sense to name it. You totally can if you want to. But if I do this, remember that we're only looking at the function signature here, right? If we do this, what's the lifetime here? We haven't written the function body because this could be a trait method, right? So we're only looking at this. What's the lifetime of this? Is it the same lifetime as B? Is it the same lifetime as A? Do they have the same lifetime? We can't look at the call side because this might be a public function used in a library. So no one might be using this function yet, right? Three days to recalculate all our products in this app while my proof of concept takes less than a minute to be done. Oh my god, that's good though, Prevan. Flex. My brain don't compute this. It could be lifetime of either. Yes, exactly that. So if we just look at function signatures for this conversation from now on, right? What we're trying to do, no, temporis. What did I successfully achieve with C++? And I did a marvelous implementation of a vector, ish. It lacks a lot of functionality. Don't judge me. All right. So so we're gonna make some assumptions around this code here. I'll show you temporis just for you, okay? We're gonna curl. Is it main.cpp to... Where's that button now? Okay. There we go. All right, here you go, temporis. Read it and marvel. Marvel at the beauty. Okay. So, Codebra, Jonil, we're only looking at this part, okay? Right? We can't look at the body of the function. So whenever we talk about lifetime, right? Because we're gonna make some assumptions here, right? And that this code is part of a public lib that we are writing that will be used by some complete rando, right? And because of that, we cannot assume anything about A or B, right? We can't make any assumptions where they come from or anything like that, right? So given that, there is only one possible lifetime here, or two, right? Static is always possible, right? But we can only infer either static or this thing. So the value that we return has to be either this value or a static value. It has to be. It cannot be any other value, right? So because of that, we don't have to give it any lifetime, right? Here, on the other hand, the lifetime of this can be static, that of B, or that of A. But because we can't decide whether it's A or B, based on this information, we have to help the compiler and say whether it is A or B, right? My app makes simple select and insert, and then the Go app makes most of the work while his app is creating events. If a product is changed, which creates even more events, so he ends up with 12 million events created in the Postgres database. Oh my. Git InstaWeb. I have no idea what that is. Let me show you something fun. Will it though? No, it didn't. You give everything the same lifetime, but what if they don't have? Yes, apparently it does, Temporis. You give everything the same lifetime? Okay. Small cheap boat or any motorcycle with a sidecar. Well, a cheap boat's gonna be like 20 pounds, where a motorcycle with a sidecar is gonna be thousands of pounds. So I'll take the motorbike. Thank you. Also, as much as I want a boat, I have some requirements for my boat. I've been avoiding lifetime. They're ugly. Well, that's subjective. And I could take my wife and for some kind of doomsday ride. Was unaware of study. Okay, well, Temporis, as a bit of a C++ pro, I like to educate my viewers as much as I can. Okay, okay, there are a couple of things we can do here, Codebra, right? We can do what you say and give everything the same lifetime. But what if they don't have the same lifetime, right? What if they have different lifetimes? Okay, so there's different ways that we can deal with this thing, right? We can start off by giving. And the lifetime depends on what we're going to do with it, right? We can give them different lifetimes. We can have A and we can have B. And now we have to decide whether this is A or B. And if it's A, then that's all we can return, right? So please don't be confused by the A here and the A here. They have nothing to do with each other, right? This could have been called Fiddlesticks and this could have been called Monkey Rage, right? I'm just using the letter A. This will compile. We cannot change this to B because now we have a different lifetime, okay? And notice that the error message says lifetime may not live long enough because we don't know. We don't know. I'm cooked. Because A prime and A looks nothing alike. Okay, well, this is the thing. We gotta name lifetimes after something, okay? But when you're making a contrived example, it's difficult to come up with a name, right? Okay, let's do this. Let's say that we are building a runtime, and this runtime will have some kind of string manipulation attached to it, right? So why don't we have a function called runtime here? And anything we're going to create in here is going to have the lifetime of runtime. So our root is going to be some kind of string. What should we do? Why do I keep pressing that key, right? Here is the root of all that is fun, okay? And then we're going to have a loop in here doing something. And in this loop, we're going to have a function that gets some user input. I swear I'll learn to type in this keyboard sometime soon. And this thing's going to return... Let's return a string here, right? It doesn't really matter what we do. We're just going to return string new here, right? This thing doesn't really matter, right? The thing that matters is that we're going to have a different lifetime of the input. There we go, right? Cheating. Okay, so this lifetime and this lifetime are not the same, all right? So let's say that we're going to use this input to extract some information from this one, right? So we'll write this as a find function. Okay, so our source is going to have a lifetime of runtime, right? And that's going to be a string size, and our, it's not a predicate, it's our needle. Is that what you call it? whatever, our search term is going to have a lifetime of user input, right? And that's a string size. So what we really want to return here is a string size that has a lifetime or runtime, okay? Because we're going to search through this route here with whatever we get from the user input, okay? And then we return the source there. It doesn't really matter what they do, right? Now we have to enter these lifetimes here. Runtime and user. Right, done. So this one will live shorter than this one, right? This one will go out of scope here, right? For the next iteration, we'll create a new one of these things, right? So if I want to do something where I find some value, I can pass in the root and I can pass in a reference to the input. And this will be some result, right? It's not really important that it actually does something with the result here. This is just a conversation, right? Yeah, they permeate, right? Are there lifetimes in Python? Not that you have to care about. No is the answer, because you have a garbage collector there, right? I tried watching a few videos explain lifetime in a way more useful than just region where code is valid or whatever, but still don't understand it. Okay, well, we're trying. So to talk about lifetime and what people don't understand, I need to know what it is that they don't understand. But we'll continue this for a bit, right? So what can we say here with this result? We can say that this result has the same lifetime as this root. Right? That's all we can say here, right? This obviously means that we can use these results outside of the loop, okay? So let final, I can't use final. Let the thing, okay, equals loop, and I break with the result. I say if result.len is larger than 0, then break with the result. Okay, so then we have the result, and we can finally print out the results here, right? The thing. This works, right? Even though this string has a shorter lifetime than the root, we can still return. That's a weird thing to say, even though, right? Because they have different life. If I change this now and say that these two have the same lifetime, right? So the term here has a runtime lifetime, okay? We're now saying that this input and that input has the same lifetime, okay? Input does not live long enough because we're saying that these two have the same lifetime, and the shortest of these two is this guy. So we're trying to return a value from this loop that is referencing a value with the same lifetime as one in the loop. You get it? Why is the Rust syntax so unfriendly? That depends on your definition of unfriendly. But did you practice any though, CP? Did you build anything? I know you build things with Baby. How's your game coming along anyway? Tiny bit. Okay. Well, that's my child, but okay. Let's see if we can nail this though, right? Who in the chat do not understand this, what I just said? Let's see if we can explain this one a little bit better, right? Okay. So, first of all, is it unclear why this is it unclear why this does not live long enough? Okay, let's go through it again. So first of all, we're gonna remove as much noise as we can from this application, all right? So let's talk about what we're actually doing here, right? So first of all, we're gonna create a string size in this function called runtime, right? We create a string size. Then we're creating a loop, okay? Okay, we don't have to look at what's inside the loop, okay? But what is actually happening inside the loop? Anything we allocate inside the loop is freed at the end of the loop for the next iteration, right? So if I create a loop here and I create a value here, this value will be freed here, right? There we go. So the value cannot exist outside of the loop. Is this clear so far? Right? This value cannot exist outside the loop. This value, if this thing was a string, right, with some heap allocation, we don't have to do that, but just to be clear, right? Got it. Okay, excellent. So anything that I declare inside this loop cannot exist outside of this loop. A reference to anything inside this loop cannot exist then, right? Because if I did this, okay, let mute string slice, all right, and we say that this string slice is, we make it mutable because we're going to reassign it, right? Let's not overcomplicate things anymore than we have to. And then here, we're going to print out the string slice, okay, for good measure. So far, so good. Well, this thing is going to cause me grief, isn't it? Let's just get it to compile again, right? So inside this for loop, this string will not exist outside of the for loop, right? So if I try to say that the string slice is now equal to a reference to the value, okay, I now have this string slice that is a reference to this value that will be freed at the end of this loop iteration. I'm trying to use it here. Now, funnily enough, this code actually compiles, right? This code compiles because we're never breaking out the loop. But if we break the loop, it will not compile, right? Because this string slice is pointing to this value, which is freed here, okay? So we basically have destroyed the memory. We freed the memory, and this would be a dangling pointer. And that is terrible, okay? So the same rules applies up here, right? When I get this input, if I try to refer to this input outside of the loop, I cannot, right? Okay, how does this tie into the lifetime then? How does this work with the lifetime? Okay, well, let's look at that then, right? In here, in this code, right? Remember, we're only looking at this part, right? At the signature. In here, we're saying that we have some input with a lifetime. We have some other input with a lifetime. And we return some output with a lifetime. All these lifetimes are the same. So Rust have to shrink the lifetimes, right? Of this value to fit with this value. This is a little bit hand-wavy and weird to say. The point is, as far as this code is concerned in here, this guy and this guy have the same lifetime. They both have a lifetime of runtime. Okay? Because they have a lifetime of runtime, we're going with the shortest lifetime here, which is this guy, which means we try to return a value from here, right? Even though we're returning the source. Even though we are returning the source here, because we do not care about the body of a function when we're talking about the lifetimes, right? As far as Rust is concerned, we are taking some input, returning some output. They all have the same lifetime. That's all that we can think about here, right? Because this could be a trait method. Right. What can we say to this? What can we say to this? Right? Source and term are lifetime. No. Runtime, and user are lifetimes. We have just annotated this with lifetimes, right? Is there a way to extend lifetime beyond the scope so you can access things outside the scope, or is that unsafe only? It's unsafe only. So, I mean, how could you? This value ceased to exist outside of the scope. How can you refer to it? The memory is going to be cleared, right? Possibly. And is now occupied with something else. You'd be worst case scenario, you're basically building exploits into your program, right? You end up with dangling pointers or referencing the wrong value and so on and so forth. So a lifetime is in its most basic form moving the deallocation to another. No, a lifetime is only an annotation. The compiler doesn't know which block it should be, so you pass it manually. Lifetimes are just annotations for you to help the compiler understand what you want, okay? You do not write a lifetime. You cannot change the lifetime. Okay, here's a good example. We can't extend the lifetime of this input by giving it the same lifetime as the runtime. It has the opposite effect. We're shrinking the lifetime of the return value, not the root value. Even though we're passing the root value in and returning the root value, the value that we get here has nothing to do with this value in terms of lifetime, right? I can still break using the root. This is fine. I just can't break using the result, even though they're the same value. Because according to Rust, the value we return from here has the same lifetime as the input value, which is this value, which cannot exist outside the function. Hello, Limenax, how you doing? We're learning lifetimes. Yes. Can't you allocate manually yourself? You can, but if you're gonna go and allocate manually yourself, then you have to free the memory yourself as well. You can totally do that, right? We could pull in an allocator and we can allocate some memory and we can decide when we free the memory, right? But that is not the point of lifetimes. And that would mean that we're doing manual memory management, but we don't have to, right? How do you pass the result up? Weekend starting, nice. Cannot compute this far. Okay. So how do we pass the result up? What we have to do, Athena, is change the lifetime of our term, right? So we have to say that the source lifetime and the return values lifetime are the same, but the term, which is this input, do not have the same lifetime. So we have to change this to be the user, because we're never going to return anything from this term. We don't care when this guy expires. We just care about the result. And by changing the lifetime, this now compiles, right? We are helping the compiler understand that this guy is the data that we're interested, the memory we're interested in is this guy, right? This is just used for something, right? We don't know what this is used for. We're not using this thing for anything, right? But this term and this source do not have the same lifetime, right? Unsafe. Yeah, okay. I'm doing a bad job here. I'm doing a bad job. I haven't thought about how to explain lifetimes in a while. And we're kind of just getting stuck into this thing. I'm more explaining why you have to annotate lifetimes more than what they are. So lifetimes are police interrogations where you have to prove to the cops you have an alibi for last Tuesday, but for memory safety. They are there to distinguish between the differences of, I can't use another word than lifetime, of the data. So we're saying that the source lifetime and the term lifetime are not the same. We're not saying that the term will live for longer than the source. Sorry, yes. We're not saying that the term will live for longer than the source here. The only thing we're saying here is that source and term have different lifetimes, right? If I ditch this code in here, and I return the term here, okay? The compiler will not tell me that you're returning a value that does not live, the memory will not live long enough, right? Because the compiler doesn't know if term is going to live longer than source or not. The only thing the compiler can say is that the term may not outlive this lifetime. So if we build this, we're going to get an error. that the lifetime may not live long enough, okay? May not live long enough. Unlike this, where it says where it's really? Oh yeah, sorry, it's a reference. Where it said specifically it does not live long enough. There's a difference because here it may not live long enough. Here it does not live long enough, right? So the compiler has 3 rules for giving out lifetimes, and there are these ones. Each elided lifetime, meaning each lifetime that you don't have to write, in input position becomes a distinct parameter. If there's exactly 1 input lifetime, elided or not, that lifetime is assigned to all output lifetimes, right? So if you have only one reference, you don't have to specify the output references because they can only be of this lifetime or static, right? If you do have a lifetime, when it says each elided lifetime in the input position becomes a distinct lifetime parameter, yeah, this is a little bit confusing. Here we're saying that B will live for at least as long as A. Yeah, sorry, ignore that. There are multiple input lifetimes, but one of them is a reference or a mutable reference to self. Then the lifetime of self is assigned to all it. So even though we have 2 references here, when you have a self, that's always going to be the elided lifetime. If you want other users' val to be the return value, we have to annotate a lifetime here, here, and here. Okay. Otherwise, it's now to lead the output lifetime. Now, let me see what the rules are actually saying here, because I think maybe I have to rewrite this, because this was a little bit weird. This was a little bit weird to say. Each elided lifetime in input position becomes a distinct lifetime parameter. Yes, but they are not elided then, right? So this should not be there. This is weird. I'm gonna have to go back and rewrite this. That is literally what we say here. That is the source for this write-up. It's gonna have some examples, but I need a better example for this thing. Would be too easy to explain that with just the graphic. I had to Google what elided means. Apparently the same as omitted. Yes, it means that you don't have to write it. It would be inferred. It is inferred. It is not necessary to write it. The Rust Nomicon is not the place to learn about lifetimes. This is just talking about lifetime elisions. The Rust book has some... well, hang on. This is the Nomicon. All right, I retract that statement. We need to have an example of this thing. Each elided lifetime in input position becomes a distinct lifetime parameter. Actually, yes. So we're going to go and rewrite this thing. So let's go to togglebit.io and we're going to open up lifetime. And we're going to say each elided that becomes a distinct lifetime parameter. This is wrong. So instead, we're not going to have a return here. That is what's wrong. Even there are 2 inputs that may have different lifetimes. Actually, they have different lifetimes. And the 2 that have different lifetimes. Lifetimes according to the rules of lifetime elision. It is safe to elide the lifetime here as there is no return value. Although that's kind of weird to say as well, right? So they have unique lifetimes, but the lifetimes are irrelevant because none of this will be returned. So the lifetimes of these two aren't relevant. So taking ingredients of a sandwich and splitting them up and saying the ham is here, the ham expires on this day, the cheese is here and it expires on this day, and smallest say the whole sandwich is when the whole sandwich is bad to eat. This analogy makes more sense if we talk about lifetime annotations on structs, where the struct is the sandwich, and the struct, if any of the lifetime is expired, the sandwich itself has expired, right? No, because if we return something, we cannot elite the lifetime. These are the rules about lifetime elision, where the fourth one says that it's an error to elite an output lifetime. No, the lifetime annotation is not a type, but the lifetime is part of the type. A type of scope. It's a lot more than that. It's a lot more than scope. Because lifetimes, like I showed you before, right? Lifetimes can change, right? Because these two can have the same lifetime, the return value is going to go with... No, hang on. Bollocks. That's terrible. Didn't get a job. I think that's good luck. That job actually seemed awful. I have another interview for another gig next week. Nice. Yeah, go for it. Share away. Yes, so what was I saying, right? If these two have the same lifetime, then we're going to go with whatever is the shortest of these two in terms of the return values lifetime, right? I don't think that's what I was supposed to say. I'm all over the shop with this stuff, right? It's a really bad explanation. But I have to update this thing because it doesn't make sense. Even though they're two inputs that have different lifetimes according to the rules of lifetime elision, it is safe to elide the lifetime here as there is no return value referencing. There's no return value. As a return value. Maybe that's more correct. No, so when we talk about lifetimes being scopes, this is just scope specific. This is what that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say, right? So because it's more than just scopes. In this case, we can actually shrink a lifetime. So it's not just about the scope, right? If lifetime was only about the scope and it had no other impact, then that would be really noisy. You would have to write a lot of lifetimes everywhere, but lifetimes is so much more. Lifetime comes with elision rules. It comes with shrinking. And I guess because of those things, we can't just say the lifetimes are about scope. Because in this case, this is the scope, right? This is the scope. But what we're actually doing here is we are changing the lifetime of this guy inside the scope, not outside of the scope. We're not changing the lifetime of this value. We're changing the lifetime of this value, but they happen to be the same. Oh my God, this is confusing everyone. Oh, good grief. I should literally sit down and think about how should I explain lifetimes. I need to, could you guys do me a favor? Could you go onto Discord if you're there already and then send me a PM what it is about lifetimes that you don't understand. And maybe I can take all that and see if I can put together something that makes sense. And I can spend some time thinking about it, right? Junior web developer Adelaide. Okay. Oh, they spelled supper wrong. Award-winning, rapidly growing national electrical test and tag pest control and cleaning franchise. With franchise partners located across every Australian state and now New Zealand, mate. In an exciting period of growth for the business, we're looking for an enthusiastic and talented person to fit right into our support center team and help take our brand to the next level. Our national support center, and this role is located in Adelaide, CBD, South Australia, where our enthusiastic team, man, there's a lot of enthusiasm here, right? How much enthusiasm do we actually have in here? All right, only 2. Okay, it wasn't that much. Why the local guys? As a family-built franchise, we look at each franchise partner and staff member as a member of the family. Instant red flag. We value great personalities and relationships. Good. We believe in a healthy balance between professionalism and fun. Balance stipulated by us. Working with us, you can also expect a fun, exciting team and fast-paced role where no 2 days are the same. One additional personal day. Okay, that should be written as O-N-E, okay? Additional personal day of each month, not including January. That's really nice. You get an extra duvet day. That's really good. Is it? Yeah, the fast pace is a little bit of a red flag. We're looking for ambitious and focused junior web dev to join our fun and fast-paced growing team. You know what? I think you're going to do good there, Locke. I think you're going to get this job. We believe in innovation at the local guys and are looking for someone with fresh ideas and a mindset to learning to contribute to our franchise success. In this role, you'll work closely with our marketing and IT manager. These 2 people are going to make your life a living hell to deliver exciting new projects as well as provide ongoing IT support for our franchise partner network. No 2 days are the same, and the right person will be quick on their feet, have a bubbly personality, and be an avid problem solver. And this is fine. Full-time, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Center located in a brand new office building in the heart of King William Street. Equipped with a gym in the building. All right, I'm getting interested in it. Maybe I should apply. And right by multiple public transport access points on our doorstep. Responsibility, design, develop, manage WordPress webs. No, I'm out. I'm done. A long time rebel because I don't look at job listings, unfortunately, you know. Day off on your birthday, is that when we'll call in sick though, right? I have no WordPress experience and I can't really be arsed learning it over the weekend. Don't say that to them, but I think you can do fine there. I feel like fast pace means that you basically forget CI/CD, you know. Unfair to people that have their whole birthday on a holiday. Yeah, you're right. What helped me with Lifetime was to not think in scopes but memory regions. I think I counted first in that video, not sure which. Sorry for the late reply, Nikai. But no, absolutely right. I think this job could be good for you, Locke. Though, do apply. A can-do attitude and approach to learning, strong understanding of WordPress. Okay, this might throw you. jQuery. So basically, this is not a job listing. This is an archaeology report. Proficient with SEO best practices and SEO plugins, including Yoast, SEO Press. I think you're gonna have to put in a bit of effort learning some things over the weekend, though, if you want to apply for this. If you don't know any of these things. So they are putting a lot of effort into optimization and SEO here. Jared's turn in the hot seat with Jared. What is this? Why is there a video here with Jared? I don't know, Jared. He upsets me. My baby scream. I said apply for the job, but you might have to go through and learn some of this stuff, right? You don't want to spend the weekend learning WordPress. I think you have to pick up some of this, maybe this and this. This stuff you already know. Maybe it's a period. I think you're gonna have to stop brushing up on some of it though, right? Is WordPress friendly for well-performing website? I would hope it's at least lightweight abstraction. No idea. It depends entirely on what you put in there. I don't do WordPress because I have a soul and I want to keep it. No, I don't know if that's true. That's good. Otherwise, I feel like they're wasting my time if they expect me to know this stuff. I mean, you could just do static pages and cache it, and then you get and it's gonna be fast, right? But you know, why is WordPress bad? It's keeping it. It's a hot mess. Is why it's bad, right? But WordPress inherently isn't bad though. Let me finish this update though, right? Even though there are two inputs that have different lifetimes according to the rules of lifetime, it is safe to leave the lifetime here as there is no return reference. There's no return value. There's no return reference. There is no. It's safe to leave the lifetime here as no reference is returned. Okay, let's do this. Is there anything else in there? It's all good. In your example, would giving a variable created before the loop change the need for lifetime annotation? Let's go back to it and talk about it. So this value is created before the loop, right? We could do this. Right now, this is a static value, but by doing this, it is no longer static. And we have to borrow the roots here, but it doesn't change anything, right? So here we created this value before then. So if these two values have the same lifetime, then we don't have to worry about it. You're still gonna have to annotate the lifetime, but they could have the same lifetime if the term was created outside of the loop. It might be a stepping stone though, where you kind of get into it. Is there a reason why web dev is such a huge field? Yeah, because the web is massive. I want to become a professional programmer, but I want to become a web dev using JavaScript and React. I've done web development for like a couple of decades, and I did not write an awful lot of JavaScript or React doing that. You have you have a lot of areas like database management or DBA, database admin, and it's not really programming, but then you have all the backend stuff and what have you, right? You didn't have to write JavaScript though. The web is 5 by 5 meters, right? Yeah, but if it's like a foot in the door, right? If you can survive there for 6 months, then you're gonna have enough. You just need to get in somewhere, and then you have enough to start building up your work experience, and they'll go forward. Hello, Danaka. Yeah, it was tough this morning. It was very tough this morning, but I'm better now. Thank you. So, okay, I think we're going to skip the lifetime conversations and get back into this though, right? Because I feel like I need to know what it is that you guys don't understand about lifetimes before I talk about it, because I kind of just start in the middle, right? Yeah, oh man. For some reason, I read this and I was like, oh, that's a very sweet message. It's nice of you to care. But I realized that it's just about the C++. Yeah, Space Drive was developed here on Twitch. Space Drive was developed here on Twitch. I have seen it. Are they still working on it? Are they? I haven't seen them stream for a while. There's quite a few people that has sort of gone missing in the streamer world, right? Yeah, thank you, Tanaka. It's all good. I think it would be cool to show how different approaches to solving the same problem would mean different lifetimes. Yeah, so there's like the one thing I can say about lifetimes is this, okay? There is no magical point in your Rust journey where you can just look at a singular lifetime and know everything about it. In any more than you can look at void star in C used in an argument position and know everything about it, right? You can't. You need to follow the entire journey of that value to understand anything about that lifetime, right? Okay. Lifetimes are great, but when you specify them for a central struct, you have to use them everywhere. Well, that is not true, but in general, that is true. Vex, I don't know who that. Oh yeah, Uncle Rico, that was the character in his. Yeah, I haven't seen Vex stream for a while. It's not true, but it's true. So okay, so let me just do that thing, just to like throw more confusing petrol on the fire, right? Because you can do this. I can have a struct here that has a lifetime annotation on it, and we just gonna put some BS in here. Okay, yeah, that's fine. But you don't actually have to annotate that lifetime everywhere, right? So we can just do an impl block where we don't annotate the lifetime of S, right? We're just gonna give it anonymous lifetime here. Right? And this is fine. However, the moment I try to refer to self.s, we're going to get in trouble, right? If I want to, well, let's make this mutable, right? And I want to update this thing with a new value. Now we're in trouble because we don't know what the lifetime is. So we have to do this now. And this is now fine, right? I said this is fine. Okay. There we go. This is not fine. But you only have to annotate lifetimes where they make sense, right? You might have a function that uses the S value, and you don't really care about the lifetime of the S value here. So you're just gonna give it an anonymous lifetime. So lifetime annotations aren't necessary everywhere, but they are. But they aren't. But they are. Okay, let's get into this thing, right? What was I doing here? Yes, learning Rust makes, but it makes it easier to think about. So when we looked at the C++ code yesterday and people talked about lifetimes, it was not difficult for me to understand. I got some iced tea in my hands now. It wasn't difficult for me to understand that you can. Let's see if the code is in here, right? So this code here, basically the language they used to describe this will say that we start in the lifetime here, and that makes sense. We can talk about that. If I had not done Rust before that, I would be like, what are you talking about lifetime, you nerds? Get out of here. So you only really have to annotate the lifetime when you need to use it, use safe. But again, there's no harm in annotating the lifetime, right? I'm just flexing and being a dick. Right? No, I did a terrible job with this tech penguin, okay? Let me do a better job. Let me find out what it is that you guys struggle with when it comes to lifetime so we can talk about it, okay? I'm happy to maybe make a video around it or whatever. I need a new idea for my next video, so but I don't know. Lifetimes, I think when it comes to lifetimes, they're not magical. You're not going to reach a point where you can just look at a lifetime and understand exactly everything about it. Look at the function signature, not the function body. What else can we say about this? Yes, lifetimes are not just about scope because you can shrink the lifetime of something, right? Maybe a manim animation. What's a manim animation? What is that? Oh, I'm getting hungry as well. Okay, so let me walk this away. Starting out with lifetimes, the hardest part is to get a boilerplate for them correct. You like to have the right idea, but know where to insert them. But it's also the fact that lifetime changes, right? When you annotate the state, I think that this is probably one of the more confusing thing. When you go like, well, this thing was declared in a scope outside of this thing, but lifetime, so this thing should be allowed to be returned, but it's not. In reality, you accidentally shrunk the lifetime, but you didn't realize that. You might have 2 lifetimes for 2 different types that don't need separate lifetimes. You can just get away with having 1 lifetime, which we're doing here plenty. If we were to look at the runtime code, this associated function is created. Let's see where this is created. Okay, so this is coming from the component. The component is exists inside this scope here, but we're also using values from outside of the scope here. We're also using things like constraints and attribute storage and stuff in there, and that comes from the outside of it, right? But yet we're saying that the context only has 1 lifetime, right? Even though the associated events, the emitter, and these strings are like, these strings could almost be static, right? They're that livey in the nature. So these two have vastly different lifetimes. But as far as the context is concerned and where we use it and how we use it, we don't need to annotate different lifetimes. We just say it's okay for everything in this context to shrink down to this lifetime, because nothing in this context is going to be used outside of the lifetime of this guy. Right? It is complicated, right? There is no magic that makes the lifetimes becomes understandable, and in themselves they're not complicated, but the complexity comes from the use, not from the concept of lifetime. It comes from using lifetime, how they permeate the code base. That is where the complexity comes from, which is why all these contrived examples, even the ones that I was just trying to do, is not necessarily helpful, because everyone is explaining lifetimes in a small space, but the complexity of lifetimes doesn't exist in a small vacuum. They don't exist in a vacuum. They exist in the entirety of your application. They permeate, and you might accidentally shrink a lifetime without realizing it. And now you have these compiler errors that says this may not live long enough, but you know it does because the value is practically static, but you accidentally gave it the wrong lifetime. Lifetimes in C#, I don't know. Hello, Cat Peasant, how you doing? Cat Peasant is here. We can now just go forever, and we're good. So I think that's where it comes. And I think it's the same with pointers, right? Pointers aren't complicated. It's what you can do with them that is complicated, right? They're just addresses, but they come with other things, right? Okay, so I've bollocked something up here. That's the technical term. So let's go to document and find this thing. Right? So we're going to start off with a compile that has no parent for the current one. So this makes sense. Then we're going to go to eval this thing to component. And the parent is now part of the context. We're going to get the parent from the context. And then when we create a new one, we are going to... Yeah, here, we need to change the parent here, right? So this is where we need to do this, okay? So we can swap them around. Okay, so this was right all along, that this thing could then take the parent and replace it with this guy, and then this is just going to be the parent. All right, so I was right all along then, was I? Because no. That is, we cannot do that. We cannot do that. That is not right, because we might have 2 siblings with the same, as part of the same template. Yeah, that's not wrong. Noon. Oh, is this the is this that media library? No. What is this? Is not at all. No, I don't know what this is, Tuna. Is it noon like that? No. Right. The GitHub page is better. Whoops. It's the same thing. I don't think I'm looking at the right thing. I know there's like I don't think this is the right library. Yeah, that is not the same thing. This is something else. This is probably called like NunaRS or something. Yes. I tried to do all this stuff. I'm just using DaVinci Resolve now. Much better than doing this stuff. But it's cool. It's cool though. Okay, what was I saying now? Oh man, I gotta stop distracting myself. I'm like an idiot. Okay, so we cannot change the context. That's how it is, right? Stay safe, Jonil. Man, I had so many plans this week. And that video is just playing in my head over and over again. Okay, goddammit. Okay, right. Aver, let's go. Let's do this. So we have an associated. Oh, sheep. I'm gonna have to go and hang some laundry soon. Let me just. I forgot about this. Why did I start streaming? I completely forgot that I'm doing laundry today. All right, let me go and have a quick look to see how long it is, right? And I might have to take a pause to hang the laundry. Let me have a quick look. All right. So no, it's gonna be a while. I might end up doing 2 streams today. I don't feel like working on the video, so I will do. I don't have to go yet. I'll do laundry, eat some lunch, and I'll probably come back and do the next stream, right? But let's crack on with this stuff and see if we can finish the thing, right? Okay. Yeah. It's a little bit awkward having the audio device here. All right. Anyway. Have you checked that Gleam? It's been getting good updates. I have not, but I'm not dismissing Gleam. Okay, so the context is not allowed to change. We're not allowed to change this thing, right? So instead we're gonna have a new function where we set the context, and then we're gonna have a function for the component parent that's going to return an option of template. I'm not writing that word. There we go. Okay, so we cannot update this in the context. I don't think so. So these are all mutable, okay? It would be a mistake to do anything here, but the rest I think is fine. Okay, so we go down to evaluate this component. Let's follow this thing now. So here we're gonna do component parent. And then eval attributes, blah, blah, blah. All of this stuff. For each slot, take and associated with the slot ID. Yeah, that one. This is a bit sketchy. Because this is for the slots, which means if I make a slot that is input here, and then I specify that this slot is another input or something else, right? Like this. No, but it has to have the same parent. That is actually correct then to not touch the context there. That would have been a mistake. So the context stays the same. It's only here where the context is changing. So here we have a new parent. And that's going to be was it component template ID? Why don't we go and find out? No, it's template component ID. Like so. Okay, so where do we make a new context? We have to make a new one soon. What is this thing? This is the template. Ship. Ah, we're compiling it with the parent already. Okay, so compile needs to build a new context. It does. And then here's the parent. Whew, okay, that was it. That was it. What a beautiful mess. It's not, but here now we're gonna have to start using the new function. Right? There we go. No? Wait, what are you griping about? Oh, where did you come from? Okay, here's a case where we haven't used a lifetime, but now we have to. Because of this new function, we are going to have to use the lifetime of vars here. Otherwise, this would not work. Wrong way. So we have to make a new one here. Now it's this component parent thing. There we go. Okay. No, this isn't right, is it? We're always going to have a parent there, aren't we? But here it is not guaranteed to be a parent. Snap! Ooh, there we go. There we go. Okay, so I think this solves that particular conundrum. So now we just need to know that we're referring to the parent. Hello, Apollo. How you doing? Since we have two of these using a U size, I think we can change this to a U32 at least to reduce the space. And then we just have to get through this a little bit. What? What does this have to do with anything? Oh man, should I change my leader key or not? It's driving me bananas a little bit. No? There we go. Ah, right. These two aren't implemented for template componentity, right? So we have to do an implementation of this as well from usize. And then we probably have, so from usize, we probably have to do this is what we need. We don't actually need this. There we go. I don't know what does Gleam compare to, right? That's a better C. Odin is supposed to be a language that is specific for game development, so is Jai. But I don't know what is Gleam supposed to do? I know it's functional programming, right? And yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what it does though, right? I mean, I like it because the syntax is very easy to understand. Use gunlang. Yeah, and then like 1001 Rust clones turned up, but they didn't really offer anything new and interesting and made a bunch of BS claims, right? Yeah, I guess this is some really good selling points, right? I thought you were done shilling. No, I think that's interesting, and I kind of I like those things, right? I do like that. Any language that can replace JavaScript is a bonus in my book. Okay, so now that we set the parent on the component, now we have to get rid of this thing from the widgets, and that's gonna come from the eval of a component. It's kind of parent nonsense used here. What was that? Crablang, yeah, but that had no future. No one wants that. It was just a bunch of babies throwing the toys out the pram, right? But like, oh, we don't agree with the Rust Foundation. I don't give two about the Rust Foundation. Okay, I don't care about any of that stuff. I want to write code. I don't want competing compilers for the same language. Actually, I mean that's not a bad thing. I don't want a fragmented community over a compiler, right? This is the same compiler, right? Baron syphilis lang. It makes no sense. You're fragmenting the community just so you can grab a bunch of stars on GitHub. It's complete wank to do. Set component parent. I think this is what we don't need anymore. No, we can get rid of this current component thing. I don't think component parents make sense anymore. Actually, component parents might make sense. But we're gonna get rid of component parents as well, I think. We already know what this is. There you are. An alternative. The code is open, Snooze, so you totally could do that if you wanted to, right? I'm 100% on board with people writing a different, like, I asked this very early on as well. If people weren't happy with the syntax, if they could provide a better syntax, and better is obviously subjective, but if someone, because people don't like white space or white languages, I mean, people feel strongly about Rust as well. What do I care? But people like, oh no, white space. But everything with curly brackets just looked so verbose and bad, and I didn't like it. But I said, if anyone can invent a syntax that is as terse as the current one that we have, I'm interested in it, right? Like, by the way, kind of, yeah, I don't think that's gonna make it. I think it's gonna make it more verbose if we do that. Okay, so let's get rid of all the parents. Now, so this one has no parents now. Why is this? Are these 7 arguments? 8 arguments. I'm gonna get rid of component parents. So much cleanup and so much adding this back in if I have to. Eep. This is it. This is where we're gonna do the fix. Curly bracket scopes or you know HTML as well. That has its own thing. That's what AML is. I tried looking a tiny bit into Clojure last night. It's certainly interesting, but it's too intellectual for me, and the memes about too many parents is a thing. I can read it despite how small it is, but it doesn't have a large enough size for my needs. What irony. Oh, really? And you can't scale it up? I guess that's why vector fonts make sense, right? Well, I mean, it's what I guess the languages you tend to use is what we refer to as C-style languages, right? Did I just goof up? Did I just delete a whole lot of code that I shouldn't delete? I'm hungry and not thinking. Should we take a break? Should we take a break for like half an hour or so? I can go eat some food and become functional again. Yeah, I'm guessing that's why we use vector fonts and not bitmap fonts, right? Yeah, I think we're gonna take a break for about half an hour, give or take, and I'm gonna go and fry some eggs, and we'll pass you guys over to DevDad for now, right? And I'll be back in about like 30 minutes or so. I just gonna cook and eat some eggs. I'm really hungry and I'm losing my focus all the time, right? So yeah. I'll be back in a bit. Cheers for now.